Today I'm going to give you a complete tutorial from start to finish, going through every detail of how to use iMovie. And this is really geared toward the complete beginner, or if anybody that wants to reference a particular concept. I will be having these chapters posted in the description, and you can go back and simply click on an individual chapter and jump directly to the section that you want to go. So with that being said, let's get started. To create a new project, we're going to simply hit this Create New button right here, and alternatively you can say File, New Movie. Now, I want to explain briefly what these other two buttons are. We have New Trailer and New App Preview. A new trailer will create a trailer like a movie would be, from like a Hollywood movie, and they have a template and they have a bunch of different things that you can choose from. And we can do that in a later video, but for now, I just want to mention this so you know what it is. And then App Preview, I did this in another video, and this will create a portrait video if you shot it in portrait, so you can upload it to TikTok or YouTube Shorts. And I have another video explaining that. So for right now, what we'll do is just we'll create a new movie and say movie and not trailer. Now the first thing we want to do is look around and understand what we're looking at and what it's asking you to do. You'll see a gigantic button here that says Import Media, and you also see one here. This is how we would import it, and then you get to choose where it goes. You can put it in this project media right here, which would be this one, or you can put it in a named event. And so it's important that you look over here and say, where is the data that I want? So when we pull data into what's called the timeline down here, we can pull it from the existing project, or we can go and look at past events and we can pull it in from there as well. So it's best to think about where you're going to put your data before you do it. So for example, if you're going to do a series on the same type of topic over and over, I would suggest that you create a new event, and then you can reference that event for multiple videos. However, if you just want to do one topic only, then you can just feel free to import it right into the movie. So when I do the import button, then this box pulls up, and here is what I was explaining earlier. Do you want to import it into the project media, which is the one you're working right now, or would you like to create a new event? And so if you did a new event, you could say something like the tutorial iMovie, and let's say I had a bunch of movies I wanted to do, and what happens here is that we create an event called tutorial iMovie. Once that is created, then we go to the hard drive or the desktop or wherever it is, grab your data, and just press import. And so that is how you get data into the tutorial. So for example, here I've selected my desktop, and here is the screen recording that I did just a few minutes ago from the first part of this tutorial. And so we can go ahead and import that into this right here. So what you want to do is you want to wait until this progress bar is done. You see this progress bar right here? I have learned through experience that you do not want to do any editing until that progress bar is done, because I've had a couple of libraries crash when I edit them before the progress is done. And so now we have access to many different sets of videos and clips that we could put in. And in this case, we are looking at the event called Tutorial iMovie. But if we went over and clicked this button, there'll be nothing there. Why? Because we haven't entered anything into this particular event. So I've just created a new movie called Demo, which we will use now. In the demo file, and I've hit the import button, and I went to my desktop, and I've got two movies here that I shot in the backyard of my dog, and then I went and grabbed some public domain images. And so we can import images or movies, and so we're going to select them all, and this way I'm just going to import into the project media just for simplicity. Now we're going to wait until this is done. That's all done, and we are ready to start our movie. So the reason I have in both movies and clips because I want to demonstrate some of the features that you can do and that you are not limited to just one media format or another. You can do many different things. And so let's just say we're going to do a movie about dogs. I couldn't find any other Australian Shepherds on except for one. I found out one puppy picture of an Australian Shepherd, but let's just say it's about dogs. So what I'm doing is I'm just dragging these two in here. Maybe I'll use them, maybe I won't. And so I've got these two in here, and we can go through and we can preview how the movie is going to go. Now, you need to learn some basic editing, and so let's go through the first concept, which is working with these clips, breaking, trimming, and getting them to the right length. And let's just work on this concept first. So I have some content here that is of no value because she went down and she actually went and took a pee, and so I don't want to see that. So I'm going to forward to about right here. Now look where my cursor is down at the bottom. Now if this is important, you can say M, and this puts a mark, a little blue check right here. And that it would be great if you could put notes on, but you can't. So we want to clip out where she went and did her business and then go on to the next clip. There are two ways of doing it. One is you can click this once and say Command B, and this breaks the clip into two. Now if you were to hit the delete key now, you delete this part. If you click this and hit the delete key, then you'll break only this part, what's in the yellow box. So I'm going to say Command Z and undo. There is another way of doing it. You can select this and then just when the arrows go like this, you can just drag it to the left and you could go to that point. I find this to be more difficult than simply just going right here and saying Command B. Now let's say that you made a mistake, and I will delete this, and you wanted to go a little bit farther down. You could literally just click this and drag this to the right, and that will include the more content. You see, it doesn't erase it. What it does is it removes it from the timeline. So it cleans up your clips so you don't have to be perfect when you do your clips. Now we go to the next clip, and I'm just calling it around, and she's following me, and so finally I made her sit. Okay. And most of that looks okay. You can press the space bar and then let it run. And I think that's okay. But let's say that I wanted to just say I taught my dog how to sit. So we'll just go here, and you can see here where I'm probably speaking. Let's try it. Okay, I said sit. So maybe you want to come back about right here, Command B, and then delete this first part and say, well, I was teaching my dog how to sit. Okay, so those are two ways that you can manipulate the clips and get them to the right length, and I think you need to work on this. If you get confused, you can always go up here and you can see where they are. Since nothing is selected, they are grayed out. So like if you want to cut a clip or paste a clip, if you have one in memory, you can paste a clip. So let's select this. Now you have options. You can cut and paste and delete. Now the Command B is over here under the modified column, and Apple calls it split clip. But that's a reference right there, so you can look it up. But I find the short keys to be a lot quicker than the menu. The next concept I want to talk about are backgrounds and titles. And they can work together or in conjunction or separately. So let's go over into the Backgrounds tab, and you can see that we have a bunch of options available from different colors and styles. You can do a map, you can do a gradient, you can do industrial, you can do all these different ones. And so when you watch this tutorial, you're going to see something that I do frequently in a tutorial like this, where I will do a background and a title to explain the next concept, like the one we just did. And so let's say that we want to put a title right here with a background as an example. So I just drag one in, and you can see that it says 4 seconds, and I will discuss that in just a minute. Now, if we want to add a title to that background, here are a number of things that you can do, really a long list of things. And you can see how they operate by taking your mouse and going from left to right. So this one will expand like this. This one's down at the bottom. So some of these are animated, some of them are not. So like the split one is animated, so it splits the text like that. You have one that'll expand like this, and one that just comes from nothing and starts to reveal, and on it goes. So it depends on what you want to do. If you want something that's kind of down at the bottom and is subtle, then you can drag those in. Like if you wanted to drag this in here and have a concept down at the bottom that is maybe not taking up so much room, then you can do that, and it doesn't animate or anything. That's more of a professional, clean looking thing. But if you're doing a tutorial like I'm doing, probably the slide is okay. I mean, any one of these will work. And you just drag this in, and you see I can move this around. So see how I didn't quite get it right? You can move it around, and this little blue mark here is where it will start. So I'm just going to put it back to the beginning. All right, now here's how you edit it. When it's in this configuration where it's highlighted, you can just start typing. So you can just say, you know, dog sitting. I'm going to teach a dog to sit. And then you can preview it. And let's say that you wanted it, let's delete this one because that was just an example. Let's say that you wanted this title to extend into this clip. You just click it once till it's yellow and then drag this. And now this would go clear to here, and you can put it anywhere you want. So let's put it back, and we'll do it the same length as the clip. Now, a minute ago, I just said that this defaults to 4 seconds. What does that mean? That means that it's going to display for 4 seconds. Well, let's say you don't want it 4 seconds. Let's say you want it longer. Okay, here's how you do it longer. Click the background and drag it. Now it's 8 seconds. 10.9, and you can get it as long as you want. So let's put it back. Let's say you want it shorter, but you also want the title to be short as well. I'm going to show you a trick. Click about right here, which can be about halfway in the middle. If we were to break right here, I will just demonstrate. It simply breaks the background, and this is not broken. So when you delete the one you don't want, well, then you have to go back and work again, because now the title is too long. So we'll undo that, and I'll show you my trick. Let's say that you want it about right here. Click it once. Now you say Command A. So this selects all the clips. And then we're going to say Command B. And what this will do is it will break both the title and the background wherever the cursor is. Command B. Now, look what happens. If we delete the second part, boom. Now the title is trimmed exactly to the length of the background. And you can do that with anything. You can do that with a title that you have here, or an audio clip that you have here, or a picture in a picture, or any other thing that you want. And we'll get into all those concepts later, but let's keep this simple. So here's a way of doing it where you have one concept, title in the background, then to another concept. Now, if you didn't want that and you just wanted to simply have a simple title, you can just delete the background, and I just drug the title over here. So you have one concept going to the next concept, dog sitting. Okay? Titles are really powerful, they're really easy, and it helps your audience to understand what you're doing, especially if you're doing tutorials. The next concept I'm going to discuss are transitions. And transitions are an important thing to understand and learn how to do, because when you implement them, you can add a level of professionalism that a lot of people just don't do, simply because they just don't know how. But it's very simple, and I'll show you how it works. Now here, let's say that we're going to go back here, and we're not going to do a title here, but we want to just blend these together. Now, if we put the cursor right here and press the space bar, we can preview. And boom, it jumps. So it jumps from here to here. And when you have a lot of clips, it's jump, 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 and your audience is not really going to like it. So here's how we fix it. There are a couple things you can do. Let's say I'm going to break this here, and let's say we wanted to put a cross dissolve under all of them. We could just say Command A, right click, and add cross dissolve. And what this will do is it'll add a cross dissolve to every one of your clips automatically. So there was one at the beginning, one here, and one here. And that's a handy trick if you have like, 10 or something and you don't want to manually drag in a cross dissolve. So what cross dissolve does, the reason it's number 1 up here is because it is the most used transition. It slowly blends one clip into another, just like that, and you can see how it works. Now here you won't see it so much. You'll see the transition. Actually, you won't see it at all because this is continuous, and I only did it as a demonstration. Now I've just undid all of that work, and I want to show you another way of doing this. You can now simply drag whatever transition you want right in between your clips. So there's a dissolve, and if you don't like that, you can, if it's yellow, you can just hit the delete key. Maybe you want to do a fade to black right here, and then let it play. We'll press space bar, fade to black, and then on to the next one. And then they have a lot more that you can do, such as spin in, spin out, mosaic, spin in. It's very popular. And there are a ton of them. I don't know how many are there. It looks like maybe 15 or so. And you can preview each one of them just like you did your titles. And so like slide left, you can see how this is going to work. They give you a preview and on and on and on. And so this really makes your videos smoother and easier to watch, and it gives them a very professional looking feel, and it's a lot better for the user. The next concept I want to discuss is basically working with photos. So remember I had these 2 stills that I put in there that I just grabbed. They're public domain images. Adding stills, you can do this very easily. We're going to drag them in. You can do them all together or one at a time like I just did here. And you'll note again that they have 4 seconds just like the background did. And so with anyone highlighted, you can make it longer or shorter to whatever you want. Now if you notice, say the dogs are moving, well this is called the Ken Burns effect, and that, see this one goes in and the next one goes out, and then they alternate back and forth, and Apple does this automatically, and if you do not like that, then it's very simple to remove. Let's say that you have, for one thing, let's remove it just to see if you don't want it. Any clip that you have, or if you have multiple clips, you can hit this button right here, and then you can just say crop to fill or fit, one of the two. So crop to fill will have a preview box that you can fit it to, or you could just say fit. So now when we go back here and we preview this, you'll have a still photo here, and then you'll have a still photo here. Now the automatic Ken Burns is very good. I'm going to show you how you can modify it. So let's go back and we will click this button. This is yellow. We click the button and we go back to Ken Burns. And then if you did nothing, then it works as its default. You will see 2 boxes. One says start and one says end. So start starts with this crop and ends with this crop. Maybe you wanted to start more at the feet, and then you drag this in, and let's say we wanted to end a nice close-up right at the face. So now we can go back here and press space bar, and then it goes right to the face just because we told it to. All right? If you don't, and anytime you want to edit that, select it in yellow, hit the crop, and you can see what you have done. And you can do that with any one of the clips. You can make it longer or shorter, and it will just adjust that automatically. And you can preview it and see that it goes right in there. And then this one is the default. Oh, we had taken it off. That's right. So if we just say Ken Burns and just left it as is, then it starts, because this one is going to expand out, because they alternate back and forth, it starts with a crop of the face. But say maybe you didn't like the crop. Let's move this up, and maybe you wanted it to be right on the face like this, and then the crop wasn't quite right here, that you wanted to bring this up. And so now we can see that you start a much more pleasing crop, and maybe it's not quite right still. Maybe you want just a little bit higher. Yeah, something like that. And now you can preview it, and then you can zoom out. So the Ken Burns effect is a way to add professionalism that is, one thing, done for you if you do nothing, but then you can completely edit it at will. And let's say that you wanted to use this clip again. You have two choices. You can drag it in over here, or you can simply say Command C to copy and Command V to paste. And you can do that with any clip or media file that you want. And so you can reuse. You can say, I don't want this one. Maybe you don't want this one to do the Ken Burns, and maybe you say you just want it really short, and just say Command B, and then we'll clip it, and that's 2 seconds. And it'd be just 2 seconds, and then it's not Ken Burns, and then it goes to this concept, and then over here we are Ken Burns. And so working with pictures is really easy, and there are several ways you can get them. Remember, I drug them into the project media demo for this right here, but you can also access them from your photos library. And I'm not going to go into mine because it isn't really relevant to this tutorial, but you have it right here by default. So that's really handy if you're working from the same computer that you're editing on. The next concept is going to be voiceovers and working with audio files. Voiceovers are absolutely critical, and you're going to do this all of the time if you're posting videos like on YouTube and things like that. And so if you'll see right here, I've got a red dot. That's because I've already enabled it, but I will go ahead and disable it and show you how it works. So when you first open this up, you'll just see a play icon with a forward and backward. All you have to do is hit the V key, and now you will see that you've got this red circle, and then you've got a little VU meter. What this is doing is that it was previewing based on the media source. These two lines right here are how you select it. Now, I'm using the Yeti microphone, and you can, if you have the system setting here, it may or may not be your external microphone. It may just be the built-in microphone, and that all depends on your settings over on your, if you go under Apple settings, the audio section. So always preview. Always click this to know exactly where the audio is going to be picked up. And if you have an external mic like I do, then I highly recommend that you use it because it is far superior to the built-in microphone. And occasionally I make a mistake and I'll do a long voiceover and realize that I was on the built-in microphone later, and then I have to make a decision whether I'm going to do all that work over again. So I suggest that you look at this very quickly. Now here's how it works. Remember, when I move my cursor back and forth, I've got this line. The last one that's clicked is where you will do anything in iMovie. So for example, if I said voiceover right now, it's not going to be here over my dog. It's going to be over this still because this is where I have it clicked. But let's say that I want to do a voiceover here, and I wanted to say something like, I'm going to teach her to sit. So you press the button, and it's going to count down. Now I'm going to teach her to sit. All right, so what you're going to see here is a preview of the audio file in green, and you can see that little tick right there. That's where I said sit. So you go back and you press the space bar. Now I'm going to teach her to sit. And then there's the sit. Now let's say it's not quite right. Maybe I spoke too long, or maybe it's in the wrong spot. You can drag it. Maybe you want to drag it back here, and you can see maybe this is important where I actually say the word sit and put an M to mark it. And you can now say, well, okay, that's got plenty of room before, or maybe it's not quite right, or it was just like this. So you can move this around. Now maybe the volume is too high or too low. There are a couple of ways that you can solve this. Occasionally, if you see a red mark like this, see this means that it's clipping. If you just see a couple of dots here and there, it's probably okay. But if you have a whole bunch of them, then you are in trouble and the whole thing will be clipped. So here you can see where I can adjust the volume, and I generally want to do the setting in my Yeti microphone before I do this so that it's going to work for almost all circumstances. In other words, at a set distance from where I'm speaking, and I will speak at approximately the same volume. If you have, when this is selected, you can go over to this button right here. This is volume, all right? If the volume is, or the clip, if it has audio in it, you can hit the auto button. And do you see how that changed? Let's go back. The auto button is powerful. So here, there was I started out a little too loud and then it got quiet. The auto button is an algorithm built by Apple that will automatically bring it up to not a monotone, but a more even. See how that goes up? And now we can preview it.
Now I'm going to teach her to sit.
Okay. And so it fixes that. And that is a feature that I think you should really use a lot, because it saves you a ton of time, because you can literally go through and you can select anything and do the auto. And it may not be what you want, but generally it's a good starting place. And so I'm just going to undo that because it's just her dog leash and I don't need her dog leash any louder. So voiceovers are incredibly powerful, and I'm going to show you a couple of tricks that you can do. Let's delete that, and then I'm going to do another one. Oh, I made a mistake and talked too long. Okay, so I did that on purpose because here we have I'm going to be talking over my sit. So as I mentioned before, there are two choices. If it's possible to just move the clip back to here, you could do that. But here's another trick that you can do. Let's select the dog, Command B, all right? And then right click and say show speed editor, and then here's a trick that I use. You can drag this to the right until you have enough. And now I'm going to slow it down just slightly.
Oh, I made a mistake and talked too long. Sit.
Okay. Doesn't always work, but when you can get away with it, it's powerful. It works when you need just a second or two more and the audience will not notice a slowdown. And so then it's easier to adjust your video than it is to go back and redo your audio over and over and over again as you're trying to fit it just into that little box. I find it a lot easier just to go ahead and say what you're going to say and make the video work around whatever you said, as long as you like it. So voiceovers are something that once you get the hang of it, they're not that hard, and they're really going to help you. Before I go on this concept, I want to talk about one other trick. I've done a lot of videos now, I don't know how many, but what I have found is when I'm trying to do a voiceover to match the audio and I'm having a lot of trouble, I will do this. I will go into the background and drag anything. It doesn't matter what it is. And then I will make this way longer than I think. So that's 25 seconds. Then I'll go into the background and I will go in here and then I'll just go for it. Oh, this is take one. Wow, I made a mistake. Pause. This is take two. That's a lot better. Pause. And now take three. All right, so the reason I do that is it can't always see this, but you can see here's a gap. It's where I physically pause. And I've done take after take after take. And let's say that I like the third take. I know where it is because there's a pause. I'll just put my cursor in there, Command B, and I'll delete the first part, and I would just take this audio. Why did I make this background so long? So that I have a canvas to work with my audio files. Now you can, let's say I didn't want that, and I'm going to do take three, and I'm going to put it here. I don't need the background, just select it and delete it. But it gives me something where I can relax, and do the voiceover over and over again until it's what I want, and then I can put it where it goes in the movie. And that's something that I found very helpful for me. Now that we're talking about audio, I also want to talk about bringing in music and clips. So here's another clip. This is another dog. If you notice, I like dogs. So this is Miss Piggy, and I did a video, I don't know, a few days ago. I can't remember what it was. But let's say you wanted to add some music to it, or something like that. Over here in the audio and video tab right here, there are a number of things built into iMovie. So this one, they're by category. There's booms, ambiance, let's say forest, heavy rain, ocean surf, etc., etc. Let's say, okay, so she's a big bulldog. I mean, this is just fair. Just run with it. We can add anything here, and then what it'll do, you can add this to your audio or to your video clips. And if it's not quite right, you can trim it, drag it. You can either break it with Command B, or you can drag it over here. And then I'm going to show you how you fade in and fade out, and it is so easy on iMovie. So you kind of have to pay very close attention to what your preview cursors look like. So if you take your cursor here, you have two arrows on opposing each other. All right, now if you take it up here, now it's slightly different because now you're in the fade. All right, so if you drag this, it will fade from wherever you start to 0, and you can also drag it to begin with. So let's say it should be very quiet. Gets louder, and then it's going to play this little clip, and then it's going to get quiet. Okay, so it's so easy to do, and all you have to do is just pay attention to where your mouse is. Don't just fly up there and grab, because one does the audio length, and one here, if you're very careful, does the fade. And so I'm going to show you one other thing about audio files. Here you have whatever they have, which you can use in any one of your videos, but there's another source that you can use. Over here on the YouTube Studio, if you go down to Audio Library, every one of these can be inserted into your videos. Now, you have to be careful though. Some of them require attribution. YouTube will generally add the attribution for you. Some of them don't require any attribution whatsoever. And they have all kinds of things. They have music, they have sound effects, and it's just, you could spend forever looking for all this. So like kids playing, you know, this is, all right, some background stuff. And you go over here and let's see, let's go over to the music, and you can see this license type. You can highlight over there and it says no attribution required. So basically this is in the public domain, and you can simply put it in at will and you will not get a copyright strike from YouTube. Whenever you're adding music, you have to be very careful to avoid copyright issues. And so I go exclusively to public domain for my images, and mostly YouTube audio file that they give me or anybody else for these audio tracks. And they are all classified by genre, mood, artist, duration. And so you can then start saying, well, I want only dark. So you say filter by dark. All right. And once you find something, you can favorite it. Like cinematic and dark. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay, whatever. And no attribution required, and you just simply say download. Once you've downloaded it, you just simply go over to iMovie, hit the import button, and then drag it into your media files. And so it will be over here wherever you did it. For example, if you put it into the project media called demo, you will find that clip right here. And then you can take any one of these clips and you can drag them right down to the timeline. And remember, audio clips go below. So I don't even know what it would work if you put them above. Would it work? No, it won't. Because audio clips go below. And so you have two choices. You can automatically tell iMovie to reduce the volume of the clip or not. And you can, if you want to, you can take your clip to absolutely 0 and just have the background music. So you have a lot of flexibility here with audio clips. The next concept I want to discuss is the speed editor. The speed editor is powerful. So I've done a lot of tutorials where I'll build something and maybe it'll be, 30 or 40, 50 minutes of my work. Well, the audience just doesn't have the patience to sit there generally and watch every little bolt and screw go in. So what I'll do is I'll do a time lapse and speed those up so that they can see what's going a lot faster. Now here's Miss Piggy. I'm going to delete the audio because it was just a demonstration. And yeah, she's bow-legged. Look at her poor little legs. I mean, she could barely walk. So let's say we want her to walk a little faster. We just right-click and say Show Speed Editor. And what's going to change is that you're going to see this circle and this black line. And here's how it works. You want to make Miss Piggy go quicker, you drag it to the left. All right. You want Miss Piggy to go slower. I mean, she doesn't get much slower, but I guess you could go even slower. This is full speed pretty much for her. If you want to reset it, select the clip and go to Modify Reset Speed. And that will remove it and put it back just the way it was. And so the speed editor, I briefly showed it when we were doing the audio clip. But this is something that you're going to love, especially if you have a lot of data and you need to condense it. And occasionally you have like a hummingbird or something like that and you need to slow it down. And so it's very simple. Right-click Speed Editor, drag the bar. It's just as simple as that. Here's a summary of everything that I feel is very important, and I do think you should learn them as you go along. And then we're going to talk about each one of these, and I will show this slide again here in just a minute. We're on the next to last chapter, and the next concept I want to talk about are tips and tricks. And so basically this is going to be navigating around iMovie in an efficient way. So we've gone through a lot of these clips, we've done all these different things, the transitions, the voiceovers, the editing clips. But you're getting ready to export, and so there are a couple of things that I want to show you. The first thing is that as you make the video longer and longer and longer, it becomes, you start scrolling a lot. And so one way to do this, you say the Command plus to make it expands the timeline, and Command minus condenses the timeline. It does not actually change the length or anything. It changes the view so that you can work more efficiently. So here, if you click here, we see that that is 56 seconds. The video that I'm doing is now in about the 35 or 40 minute length. And so as I'm editing my own video, it's becoming longer and longer, and I'm having to condense it. And so this Command plus, Command minus, this is a great way. Now, why would you want to do Command plus? Why would you want to make it bigger? Well, when you start looking at audio files, watch what happens. We have better granularity, and then so maybe there's too much of a pause there. Well, we can clearly trim it. If I undo this, and then you say Command negative, you see, that's very difficult now when it's condensed to grab that effectively. So if you say Command plus to expand the timeline, you have better granularity, and you can make your editing a lot easier. So that's a tip that I think is coming really handy, and as you gain more experience, you will use more and more. The next tip is what I do all of the time. I don't have a second camera going, but if you go right above the return key, you'll see this backslash. And I use this all the time. What does it do? It takes it right to the beginning and starts playing the movie. And so The reason that's important is because you want to review your content before you post it. And a lot of times you'll be doing editing and whatnot, and the alternative is to grab this bar and drag it all the way to the left, take your cursor and click it here. It's incredibly time consuming. You could literally be over here and hit this and it'll go right back to the beginning and it'll start playing. And so that is a handy little feature that I use all of the time. Now, we've already touched on a lot of them that I use all the time, and those are quick keys. And I think there are a few that you really need to kind of memorize. Like on any Mac, Command C will copy, Command V will paste, and that can be like a clip. Command C, go over here, Command V, and now you have two versions of it. Very handy. So do that. I love Command B. For me, it's break. I don't know why it isn't. But it isn't Command S because S means save. So I didn't even know that the menu command was split because to me, Command B is break. And so those three there are really handy. And you don't really have to learn a lot of them. But if you do those 5 tips, the 2 navigating and then a couple of quick keys, it can make your life a whole lot easier. Now, if you forget and you need a review, you can go back and look at the chapters and see how I talked about this. You can also go up into the menu and you can look and you can see here they are. Command X, I didn't even discuss it, but Command X will just flat out delete it. And another one that I forgot is Command Z, because that's the undo. Like here we do Command Z, and then that will undo that split. You're going to do that one a lot. So that's another one that I really like. And if you want to go back here, you can reference them. Another one that I mentioned was just simply pressing V, and then that will enable the voiceover. And here they have some other ones that I don't always use all the time. Here's one I didn't know was there. Command T, add across dissolve. That's cool. I did not know that was there. I'm going to use that. So those are some of the tips and tricks I think that you will find handy. And here's that summary again. And you can pause the video and take a screenshot, and you can reference this at will. I believe that we've discussed everything on this list throughout this video. And if you can learn these commands right here, then it's going to make your life a lot easier, and you're not going to be fumbling around and going through the menu keys for some commonly used tasks. Now, the last concept that we're going to talk about is going to be exporting your video. And it's very simple. You just simply go up and say File, Share. Now, why do they have email, YouTube, image, and file? I just do File, dump it on my hard drive, and then I upload it to YouTube. I don't really use the YouTube and Facebook button. I have in the past, but for me, I just simply want to work with File, and then that'll do it as a file. And then, of course, you can share it through email if you wish. But it's very simple. Share, file, and then when you go to YouTube, you just grab the file. And it's really just as simple as that. When you do the exporting here, you can choose the format that you want. 540, 720, or 1080p. 540, of course, is going to be a lot smaller than high definition, which is 1080p, but you have a choice. And then you can do different versions, low, medium, high, and ProRes. I generally just upload to YouTube in high, and it seems to work just fine. But maybe if I had something visually stimulating, like Hawaii or something like that, might want to do something even higher. And then here is your compression: faster or better quality. Better quality would mean a larger video file. And so when you go to export it, you will see that this is editable, and you can add something here, like version 1 or something. And then you can add a tag, and then you just say next, and you just export it. It gives you a preview of how long the movie is and the estimated size of the movie. So if we went to, say, ProRes, it went all the way up to 1 gigabyte. So, you might want to think about that before you go into something like that. If you don't need it, I mean, that was like 8 times bigger. But if you need the high resolution, then by all means, go for it. So with that being said, this is the end of the tutorial. I hope that you found that helpful. And now you can go back and look at any of the chapters and review any of this content at any time you wish. And please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content and you would like to see more. Thanks a lot.